In 2025, one of the biggest private equity firms in the world paid $5.65 billion in cash for a single company. That company was Safe Harbor Marinas, the largest marina operator on Earth. 138 locations stretching from Florida to the Great Lakes. Blackstone did not write that check because it loves boating. Over the last decade, the number of American households that own a boat has fallen from about 10 million to roughly 8 million. So why is Wall Street paying record prices for marinas at the exact moment the boaters are disappearing? Because they are not buying a place to keep your boat, they are buying something you cannot see from the dock. And this is the part that should make every boat owner sit up. This is not one deal. It is a pattern, and it is quietly wiping out the places you keep your boat, one harbor at a time. Look at Fort Lauderdale. Bahia Mar is not just any marina. It is the waterfront that hosts the largest boat show on the planet, the beating heart of American yachting. That site is now being rebuilt into a high-end address, built around 80 homes priced from $3.3 million to $7.8 million each. Read that again. The most famous boat address in the country is being rebuilt for people who can drop $7 million on a home, and the everyday boater is not who they are building it for. When a waterfront like that gets priced way up, the everyday boater does not get a smaller slip. He gets no slip at all. And that is the pattern. Whether a marina goes upscale for the wealthy or gets bulldozed for condos, the boat that used to live there suddenly needs a new home, in a market where new homes for boats are not being built. So what does that mean for you, the person watching this with a $40,000 boat, or an $80,000 boat, sitting in the driveway right now? It means the one thing that gives your boat its value, a place to put it in the water, is being pulled out from under you. A boat you cannot slip is a boat you cannot really use. And a boat you cannot use is worth a fraction of what you paid. The dealer will not tell you that. The marina will not tell you that. So I will. Because Bahia Mar is not alone. It is just the loudest example of something happening in harbor after harbor, and the numbers behind it are quietly brutal. Look at Florida, the boating capital of the entire country. Between 2018 and 2023, the number of marinas in the state actually fell by 6.5%. Fewer places to keep a boat, in the one place where boating is supposed to be untouchable. And it is not because Floridians lost interest. In Fort Lauderdale, the trade group that runs the boat show says there are now 7 boats fighting for every single slip. Sit with that for a second. More boats, fewer places to put them. That is the opposite of a fading hobby. That is a shortage being built on purpose, one harbor at a time. And the harbors that go do not come back as boat parking. They come back as something the people who used to dock there can no longer afford. One marine surveyor in the area put it plainly. He said the first time in his career that he watched boat sales fall apart was not over money or credit. It was because buyers could not find anywhere to keep the boat or anyone to insure it. The deal collapsed on the dock. And when a marina empties out, it does not just take the boats with it. It takes the town. In downtown Fort Myers, Florida, the Legacy Harbor Marina sat and drained until its basin was left as a field of bare pilings, skeleton posts standing in open water. The boating traffic that fed the entire waterfront, the day trippers, the travelers running the Okeechobee route, the weekend crowd, simply stopped coming. The man who runs the cafe across the street watched every bit of that business walk out the door at once. One marina goes quiet, and a dozen small businesses go quiet with it. That is the part nobody prints in the press release. Now, if you have been around boats for a while, you probably already have an answer ready. And it is not wrong, it is just not the whole story. The version you have probably heard goes like this. Marinas are closing because boat owners stopped paying. And there is real truth in that. Walk the docks of an aging marina today, and you will find rows of boats that have not moved in years. At some marinas, marina owners say that 20 to 40% of the boats in their slips are derelict or nearly derelict, meaning the owner has quietly stopped taking care of them. In California alone, state agencies say there are 4,000 to 5,000 abandoned or derelict boats sitting in the water at any given time. The reason is cold and simple. A fiberglass boat from the 1990s can cost more to repair than it will ever sell for. Slip fees keep climbing, insurance keeps climbing, and the resale value of an old boat can fall all the way to zero. So the owner does the math, stops paying the slip fee, and walks away. The marina is left holding a floating problem it never wanted. Multiply that by thousands of slips, and yes, you get marinas that drain money and eventually give up. So that is the story the industry is comfortable with. Times got hard, boaters walked, marinas closed. Sad, but ordinary. The tide went out. Except that story has a hole in it, a big one, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. If marinas were only closing because boaters walked away, then the marinas that are completely full should be safe. Rock solid. The ones with wait lists a mile long should be the last places on Earth to disappear. They are disappearing too. Across the country, the typical marina runs at about 92% full. More than half of all marinas report they are more than 95% full. In Santa Barbara, the harbor got so jammed that officials threw out the old waitlist entirely and moved to a lottery because the wait had become a joke. And nationally, the whole squeeze fits into one number. There are close to 12 registered boats for every single marina slip in the water. These are not ghost towns. These are gold mines. And they are being closed anyway. So the walkaway theory, the derelict boat theory, the times got hard theory, all of it falls apart the moment you watch a packed marina getting bulldozed to make room for condos. Something else is driving this. Something colder and much bigger than any one boat owner missing a payment. And this story does not really start on the water. It starts with the dirt. This is the fact that changes everything. They are not making any more coastline. Think about that. You can build another office park. You can throw up another warehouse, another strip mall, another subdivision. But you cannot make a new mile of protected, deep water shoreline with legal access to the sea. Every usable piece of it that exists already exists. And getting permission to build a brand new marina today means years of environmental reviews, Army Corps of Engineers approvals, and coastal zoning fights that most developers will never win. So the supply of marina land is not just limited, it is frozen. And when you freeze the supply of something that people with money want more and more, you do not get a calm market. You get a feeding frenzy. And the smart money figured this out before you did. For most of the last century, marinas were sleepy. They were owned by families and small operators, or by the local town. Nobody on Wall Street wanted them. Then, somewhere in the last 10 years, the big players ran the numbers and saw what they were looking at. A limited, one-of-a-kind piece of real estate, with a dozen boats fighting over every slip that the old owners had been practically giving away. The rush was on. Blackstone's $5.65 billion purchase of Safe Harbor was the loudest example, but it was far from the only one. To put that price in plain terms, Blackstone paid roughly 21 times the marina company's yearly earnings. Nobody pays 21 times earnings for a business they think is finished. You pay it for a business you believe you can squeeze for decades, because nobody can build a rival across the street. Bain Capital built an entire real estate fund worth $3.4 billion with marinas at its center, and used it to snap up places like a 375-slip marina in Maryland. Suntex Marinas gathered dozens of locations across more than a dozen states. The pattern never changes. Buy the scarce water, then wait for it to pay. When big money like that walks into a mom-and-pop industry, it does two things. It buys everything it can, and then it raises the rent. In parts of the Southeast, slip fees have been climbing around 15% a year, not 15% one time. 15% a year, stacking on top of itself. They also find new ways to charge you for the same water. Boats that used to rest in an open slip get pushed into stacked dry rack storage, forklifted in and out on demand, so a single patch of shoreline can bill more owners for less space. Every square foot gets measured, and then it gets squeezed. But even that, the buying and the rent hikes, only explains half of what is happening, because the move that pays the most of all is not to run the marina better, it is to make the marina disappear. If this is making you look at your own marina a little differently, take a second and hit subscribe. Fleet Watch breaks down where the money is really moving in the boat market every week, the parts the dealers and brokers would rather you never notice. Now, back to that last move, the one that turns a full, busy marina into a pile of rubble, because this is where the whole thing finally makes sense. Picture a marina sitting on a stretch of waterfront, in a city where condos sell for millions. As a marina, that land earns a small, steady income from slip fees paid by working people. As condominium towers, or as a private club that sells its slips instead of renting them, that exact same dirt can be worth many times more. That is the trap. The most valuable thing a marina owns is almost never the docks, the fuel pumps, or the boats. It is the ground the water sits against. And once an owner realizes the land is worth more without the boats become the problem to be removed. So they convert. The industry even has a word for it, a docominium. Instead of renting you a slip by the month, the marina gets sliced up like an apartment building, and the slips are sold off one by one as pieces of real estate. Prices for a single owned slip can run anywhere from $10,000 to well over $200,000, depending on the water. And the moment that conversion happens, the property gets valued higher, the taxes jump, and the monthly fees follow. For the working boater who used to rent that slip for a few $100s, the message is simple. Buy in for the price of a car or a small house or get out. This is the docominium wave that swept Florida after the year 2000, and it has never really stopped. As it rolled through Tampa Bay, one county alone, Pinellas, lost more than 1,300 of its roughly 5,600 slips, even while it gained around 10,000 new boaters. Maximo Marina flipped. Bahia Beach flipped. The Imperial Yacht Basin was simply lost. One familiar harbor after another quietly turned from a place anyone could rent into a place only an owner could touch. And when the new neighbors are luxury condos, the boaters do not just get priced out. Sometimes they get physically pushed out. At the Miami Beach Marina, more than 30 charter operators, working captains, running, fishing, and sightseeing trips, were kicked out after residents of the nearby luxury towers complained about the noise. The ones who were allowed to stay had their hours cut back. Meanwhile, a few miles away, one hedge fund billionaire is building his own private marina to park his own yachts. That is the whole thing in a single snapshot. The water is being rearranged around the people who can pay the most, and everyone else is being shown the door. Do not assume that buying a slip saves you. The boaters who scrape the money together to buy in often walk straight into a second trap. Once a marina becomes real estate, the tax collector treats it like real estate. Slip owners can get hit with higher property taxes, plus association fees, plus extra bills the year the docks or the seawall need millions in repairs. What looked like a way off the rent treadmill turns into a mortgage on a parking spot for a boat. The water does not get cheaper when you finally own it. It just changes who sends you the bill. So here is the real reason hundreds of marinas are closing forever, the one that ties every piece of this together. It is not that Americans stopped loving boats. It is not only that old boats got abandoned, though they did. The real reason is that the land under the water became worth more than the water itself. And in a country where you cannot build one more inch of coastline, the people who buy that land have every reason to squeeze it, sell it, or pave it, and no reason at all to keep renting cheap slips to the middle class. The people who value land have a name for this: highest and best use. It means the market and the tax rules both push a piece of land toward whatever earns its owner the most money. And for a stretch of prime waterfront, a basin full of working-class fishing boats is almost never the answer. The land wants to become condos. The only thing standing in its way was a marina, and marinas are being removed. One marina executive said the quiet part out loud. He said that as marinas get gathered into fewer and fewer hands, and slips get pulled out of the water for hotels and condos, it is bad for boaters because there is less space. But, he said, for the people left owning slips, it is great. More demand, fewer slips, higher prices. None of this is a breakdown. It is the market working exactly the way it was built to, just not for you. So who wins and who loses when this is finished? The winners are easy. The private equity firms that bought early. The developers who turned slips into penthouses. The wealthy buyers who now own a piece of a shrinking waterfront. And the operators who control what is left and get to name their price. And do not picture only the coasts. This is landing on inland lakes and river towns too. Anywhere a patch of shoreline can be fenced off, priced up, and sold. The losers are just as easy, and there are far more of them. As one researcher who studies this put it, most boat owners are not rich. They are working people, and there is only so much they can spend to put a boat on the water. When their marina converts or closes, they are left with three choices. Find another affordable slip nearby, which barely exist anymore. Trailer the boat and drive somewhere farther away every single time they want to use it. Or give up and let the boat sit. You already know which one most of them choose in the end. And there is an ugly loop that closes the circle. Remember those abandoned boats from earlier, the derelicts rotting in their slips? A lot of them did not start as junk. They started as somebody's pride, until the slip fee doubled, or the marina converted. And suddenly there was nowhere affordable to keep the boat, and no buyer willing to take on the problem. The rising cost of the water is what turns a good boat into wreckage. The squeeze does not just close marinas. It makes the very junk that everyone then blames the boaters for. And this is the part that makes it permanent. When a marina becomes a condo tower, it does not turn back. That waterfront is gone as public boating space for good. A few places have fought it. In Wisconsin, the plan to turn a 407-slip public marina into private docominiums was ruled illegal because you cannot lock the public out of public water just to build a private club for a handful of slip owners. But those fights are rare, and they are usually lost. Every marina that flips is one more door closing on the water, and the door does not reopen. These are the quiet tombstones of American boating, and most of the country never even hears them go. Now, this is where you get to stop being the person this happens to, and start being the person who saw it coming. Because once you understand that the slip is the real asset, not the boat, everything about how you buy, sell, and hold a boat changes. So the one thing to do this week is simple. Before you buy any boat, or before you sink another dollar into the one you own, find out exactly who controls your slip and how long you are promised to keep it. If your marina has already been bought by a large company, or it sits on a short-term land lease, treat a 15% a year fee increase as your normal, not your worst case. A slip that costs you $6,000 this year is on track to cost close to $12,000 in 5 years at that rate. Lock in the longest slip agreement you can get, in writing, before your harbor becomes the next headline. A locked-in slip is now part of the boat's value, maybe the biggest part. And if you are shopping right now, this flips your whole search. 2 identical boats are not worth the same money if one comes with a locked slip you can keep and the other comes with a spot on a 5-year wait list. The slip can be worth more than the engine. So buy the water first and let the boat follow. If you want the full playbook for this, the exact questions to ask a marina, how to read a slip contract, and how to work out the true cost of owning a boat before you ever hand over a check, it is all in the Complete Boat Buying Guide. It is $27 at fleetwatchmanual.com, and it is built to keep you from being the person who buys the boat and then loses the water. Remember that $5.65 billion Blackstone paid at the start of this? That was not the top. That was the opening bid. The same money that bought the marinas is now coming for something even the rich did not see coming. And what happens to slip fees over the next 5 years is the story on your screen right now.